have noticed a lot of people are focused on my age. Well, I get it, believe me. I know better than anyone. But there's something else I know. When I came to office, this nation was flat on its back. I knew what to do. I vaccinated the nation and rebuilt the economy. Let's be clear, Kamala and I came into office determined to transform how the economy works. Change the way it literally functions.
Yeah, we're doing great. They keep doing this thing where they do this press tour and they brag about bidenomics, and Janet Yellen tells people they're doing great, and President Mumbles tells people they're doing great, but people don't feel like they're doing great. Joining me now, executive editor of The War Room, Natalie Winters. Natalie, it's kind of a bizarre strategy to just go tell everyone, hey, the economy's great when they can't afford eggs. Not one that I would go with personally.
I think it's sort of the same strategy they took with the vaccines. Mandates aside, they went around telling everyone, oh, it's safe and effective, you should have to get it. But we're also going to simultaneously try to influence you through, media and social media censorship, and put millions, if not tens of millions, billions of taxpayer dollars to try to force you into taking this vaccine. And I think it's sort of the same thing goes for bidenomics. If it's so great, you shouldn't have to defend it so staunchly and so frequently. This, of course, coming on the heels of Joe Biden putting up a tweet trying to draw a contrast between MAGAnomics and, the far-right bomb throwers up on Capitol Hill, and, of course, Donald Trump himself, and Bidenomics. And it's so in your face. I think it's really an insult to our intelligence when they try to draw the distinctions between these two different approaches to fiscal policy, to the economy, because it's gaslighting, right? It's telling you not to believe the reality that you see with your eyes, that you feel with your pocketbook, that you feel with your checkbook. But frankly, for so long, they've gotten away with lying to us about so much worse. They have an entire censorship industrial complex to get away with it. So I'm not surprised that they're pulling out the same stops on something, even if it's so obvious that it's not true.
Natalie, the American people have not proven that they actually care about spending. Republicans spend too much. Democrats spend too much. On and on and on it goes. As we speak right now, Democrats and Republicans are talking about how many billions they should spend on this or that, but we don't have billions at all. So this stuff kind of seems pointless if no one's going to care until the collapse anyway.
You're exactly right. And while today the debate may be over, 1.47 trillion versus 1.5 and change trillion, if we don't actually really, I think, have a course correction where we try to incentivize and encourage economic growth here in the United States, every year, every 2 years, we're just going to continue having that same debate, and the numbers will get increasingly higher until I would argue we hit the point of $40 trillion in debt, and we hit the point where we're like the Roman Empire, and fiscally we collapse. I think societally, from an immigration standpoint, you could almost argue that that's a societal collapse has happened, but it's absolutely ridiculous. And I think, again, it's the insult to the intelligence. It's the fact that leadership up here on Capitol Hill in DC wants to play games. I think there's no better example than McCarthy wavering back and forth on whether or not Ukraine is going to be included in a potential CR, in an omnibus when it comes to DOD appropriations. They give a little red meat to the base, and then you see 2 days later, they're actually, no, we're going to stuff the Ukraine training and billions of dollars to Ukraine. And it's an offense to the American people. But it goes back, it's the same strategy as Joe Biden. They know they can get away with it because empirically they always have.
Natalie, the Ukraine thing I find fascinating, no matter how much people hate it or love it or go Ukraine or go Russia, I don't really care. The American people don't care about this conflict, yet Republicans and Democrats both talk about it like it's the most important thing in the world. It's not on anybody's top 10 list, yet they love it. Can you explain that?
Well, I think the answer is that they need a new forever war. The calls of Iraq and Afghanistan have sort of petered out. People aren't so, much into that anymore. At least domestically, the new, counterterrorism threat is, Trump supporters and MAGA people. So it's not Islamic extremism. So the military industrial complex needs, some new grift, some new operation to make a bunch of money. I only wish that they saw our southern border as an opportunity, as a cash cow, and they would deploy, troops and weapons and whatnot there to secure the southern border. But I think it really just comes down to, frankly, what it comes down to with every issue, whether it's Ukraine, immigration, tax policy, fiscal policy, it's about the donor class. It's about the people who are lobbying and fundraising and really purchasing these politicians. And we know the military industrial complex, just like big pharma, just like big ag, just like big food, really at the end of the day gets to call the shots, no pun intended. And I think they really are looking to turn Ukraine into the new forever war abroad. And I think they're looking domestically, at least from the big pharma perspective, to kind of make COVID, to make pandemics the new forever war at home. So they need a new grift, and Ukraine, I think, just happens to be that.
What am I supposed to make so far of Kevin McCarthy? I don't expect him to be some fire-breathing anti-communist. You know, we were told we got all these concessions from those 20 brave souls, and I'm glad we did get some concessions. How has he been?
He's an absolute liar. And I think look no further than the sort of talking points that Republican leadership has been putting out this week, saying that we can't shut down the government because then we won't be able to impeach Joe Biden, which is, again, insult to intelligence, a bald-faced lie. And to that, I would say, well, Kevin McCarthy, if impeaching Joe Biden was so important, was so time-sensitive, then why did you take a 6-week, well over a month recess, a break, taking congressional delegations to every country, focusing everywhere except the United States, if impeaching Joe Biden really was of paramount importance? So it's these sort of games that they play. It's all messaging. And I really think it goes back to, sure, these investigative committees, yeah, they've overturned, or they've turned up some interesting evidence. I would argue a lot of it's sort of deja vu, right? A lot of it links back to the Hunter Biden hard drive. This is stuff we've known about for a very long time. But those are just meant to distract the American people from actual accountability and actual action. It's just meant to keep the people complacent, I would argue. It's the latest iteration of bread and circuses. And the fundamental thing here is that, sure, Kevin McCarthy may have an R next to his name, but there's really not much separating him between Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, Mitch McConnell, and Chuck Schumer. They're all part of the uniparty. They don't actually want to fundamentally change the way that the system works. And because they only worked a total of like 15 days since June of this year, they've now put us, I would argue, intentionally in this position where we have to pass a CR, we have to pass an omnibus, and we don't even have time to do single subject spending bills. And again, just like we ask about the Biden regime, is it intentional or is it incompetence? In this case, it's very intentional, because this is the way that business as usual goes in Washington, D.C., because it's the way that the special interests, it's the way that the donor class, and it's the way that the uniparty wants it to be.
Pretty much every time. Natalie, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.